What's happening, everybody? Friday, May 30th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning into Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. In the second half of the show today, President Trump and Elon Musk will be holding a joint press conference announcing his departure from government for now. Could he come back? We'll talk about whether or not he can come back, what he's been up to, and the amount of hard work Elon Musk has done, not only with Doge, but for the conservative movement, for the America First movement in its totality. Also, we've got big news breaking at this hour. The Supreme Court, in a 7-2 decision, says that President Trump is allowed to deport up to 500,000 illegal immigrants given protected status for no reason that I can understand under Joe Biden. Also, an appeals court reinstates President Trump's tariffs, basically putting the kibosh on what these lower federal courts are doing. The Federal Reserve's key inflation rate drops to a 4-year low as household take-home pay continues to rise month over month over month. Huge news is coming right now. This is big stuff. Big stuff. Today's a good day. Look, it's a good day for the country, as always, because President Trump is in office. But it's a very, very bad day for the people over on MSNBC. And we're going to laugh. We're going to laugh because the mainstream media continues to suck over and over and over again, left, right, and center. And we're all going to laugh about it. We're all going to laugh about it because, they did it to themselves. They did it to themselves. Before we get started, though, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We are rocking. We are rolling here once again. Second half of the hour. We're preparing for the big Elon Musk press conference in the Oval Office with President Trump. Naturally, we will bring you that live. I'm curious what they have to say. Will the savings be passed on to the Americans? How all of that is going to work. But let's dive into the breaking news of this hour. The Supreme Court has allowed President Trump to deport over 500,000 parolees, whatever the hell that means, from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The two justices, Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson, have dissented in the decision. Now, first off, Ketanji Brown Jackson is apoplectic about this, but that's okay. She's the dumbest member of the Supreme Court who doesn't know what a woman is. She's also a coward for not very obviously saying what a woman is. Hello. Do I think Ketanji Brown Jackson doesn't know what a woman is? Of course not. Do I think she was afraid to say it in public? I do. And because of that, she is in fact a coward. So let's dive into the story. The Supreme Court has stayed a block on the Trump administration's move to end the temporary protected status for over 500,000 foreign nationals who were admitted to the United States under the Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela temporary parole program after a lower court had blocked the efforts. The decision from the Supreme Court opens those who entered to the United States to deportation. According to Fox News, this from the Post-Millennial, the decision from SCOTUS stays the lower court order that blocked Trump from removing the status from the 500,000 immigrants. The stay is temporarily as come on guys with the typos is temporary as the lower court works out the appeal, but the removal of the protection opens those who were admitted to the program up for deportation. Did they just? Yeah, I think they just put the same damn sentence in there twice. The same paragraph in there twice. Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented in the decision. The court's decision marks a huge win for the Trump administration as part of his agenda and his campaign to push for deportations for those who came to the United States illegally under the Biden administration. This program, or a parole program, was expanded under the Biden administration to the point where the immigrants were being allowed into the United States at $40,000 a month. $40,000 a month. Nothing to see here. The program, which was more of which was more limited under previous presidents, allows foreign nationals to come to the United States for extraordinary and temporary conditions because of natural disasters or other emergencies. This makes sense. This absolutely makes sense. If you live in another country and your city, your town is devastated by a hurricane, and you have family in the United States, and you want to come stay with them while you get it all worked out. That makes total sense. That makes absolute sense. You know, we do that here. If your house is destroyed in Florida, you come back up to New York and you stay with relatives. Anybody who's from New York certainly knows that. That makes complete and total sense to me. The problem is that the temporary part. Unfortunately, for some of these countries, most notably Venezuela and Haiti, the extraordinary circumstances that were put into place were because their country sucks. The problem is, those countries have sucked for a very long time. And I'm sorry, look, if I was living in Caracas, if I was living in Port-au-Prince, I wouldn't want to live there either. Luckily for me, I don't. And I'm sorry. Every person living in crappy circumstances in the totality of the world cannot just live in the United States indefinitely. Can't happen. Not enough room. We don't have enough resources to go around. It's just not how it goes. And that's what the Biden administration did. For a long time, particularly with Cuba, America would let dissidents come in to the country. Cuban expats, for example, people that knew that they were fighting the Castro regime and they wanted to flee when, things got too hot. That is what the refugee program in America is for. The Africans who fled the persecution of people like Idi Amin. That's what it's for. Economic migration is not a reason to get refugee status. It just isn't. I'm sorry. There are a lot of poor places in the world. A lot of poor places. You can't just come here because of that. You have to be fleeing an actual danger. And if that's what the policy was, I don't think as many Americans would be as mad about it as they currently are. The problem is, this was extended $40,000 a month. No, I'm good. Absolutely not. The decision to widen the scope of the program was taken by executive action under Biden. However, U.S. District Court Judge Edward Chen ruled against the Trump administration using executive power to end those protections for those who came to the United States under the program. U.S. Solicitor General John Sauer, excuse me, jeez, I don't. Requested the Trump administration revoke the protected status for foreign nationals under the program and said that Chen had improperly used his judicial authority in the lower courts. Yeah, I'd say so. The district court's reasoning is untenable, and it implicates particular discretionary, sensitive, and foreign policy-laden judgments of the executive branch regarding immigration policy. And MSDNC is losing their minds. Just observe how sad these people are about this.
Justices now allowing the Trump administration to revoke protected status for 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela while the appeals process plays out. Gary, fill us in.
Yeah, it was a 7-2 decision. That means that all the conservative justices and Justice Elena Kagan voted together on this case to allow President Trump to end these protections for more than 500,000 individuals from Cuba, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, and from Venezuela. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and Justice Sonia Sotomayor dissented in this opinion. They said, quote, "It undervalues the devastating consequences of allowing the government to precipitously upend the lives and livelihoods visas of nearly 500,000 non-citizens while their legal claims are pending. Now, this all become Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem had been seeking to end this Biden-era program that allowed these individuals from those four countries to live and to work in the U.S. for up to 2 years. And now it was that 2-year deadline that the Trump administration was unhappy with and was trying to move up and to get these folks out of the country. Now, in terms of what is going to happen next, these individuals are going to have to find another reason to be in this country, another legal reason to be in this country. That could come via a student visa. That could come via a different type of work visa. But it has to not be through this program, at least while appeals are underway. Now, this could, of course, change, right? Because the appeals court could reverse what the Supreme Court has said here, and then it could go back to the Supreme Court. But this all started where a Massachusetts U.S. district judge said the administration could not just sweep this away entirely without these individualized determinations. Now, the Trump administration argued you can't individually determine with 500,000 people in any sort of specific amount of time. It needs to be done faster. It needs to be done as a block. That's something the Supreme Court said, actually, you can.
Actually, you can. So, and look, I want to be clear. Is this going to look pretty? No, it isn't. Will there be very, very sad videos coming out about this? Absolutely. What up, Chris Caulfield? How are you? Is this something? Look, you're going to get bad videos out of this. You just are. But when they were granted temporary protective status, they were given a 2-year period. If you established a life here, knowing that you only had 2 years to live here, that sounds like a you problem, not a me problem, okay? You can't just stay here forever. And I'm sorry, people seem to be very, very upset about this. They're very upset. But even Justice Elena Kagan, who is the former dean of Harvard Law, which about as left-wing as you get, even she sided with the Trump administration on this. Even she said, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get up out of here. So President Trump picks up a bigly, some would say huge, win from the Supreme Court. Another court coming to the defense of President Trump is the U.S. Appeals Court, where a federal appeals court has granted the Trump administration's request to temporarily stop the blocking of tariffs by a lower court. Doing the happy dance. Do you know why? Because tariffs are a tool. They are a negotiating tool for the President of the United States. And if any of the 633, if any of the 633 federal district court judges around the country can just stop that from happening, why would any foreign country take the tariff seriously and give concessions to the United States? Luckily, an appeals court has reinstated the tariffs. On Thursday, after President Trump's Liberation Day, tariffs were blocked by the U.S. Court of International Trade. An appeals court has reinstated them. According to CNBC, a federal appeals court granted the Trump administration's request to temporarily stop the blocking of the tariffs from the lower court. This comes after the Trump administration was asked whether it would pursue other avenues to implement the taxes. We saw it yesterday with Carolyn Levitt at the press room.
Back on trade, I know you said the White House is going to fight this ruling in court. Is the administration actively reviewing other avenues, other options to carry out the president's trade policy?
The president's trade policy will continue. We will comply with the court orders, but yes, the president has other legal authorities where he can implement tariffs. However, it does not dispute the fact that the president was right to declare a national emergency when it came to fentanyl and when it came to our crippling deficits and the lack of critical supply chains here at home. That is the reasoning for the president's tariffs. And the court didn't dispute those facts, by the way. And there have been other courts that have reaffirmed the president's position. In fact, a ruling in federal court earlier this month shows that the administration is in the right, said we will win on appeal. A federal district judge in Florida ruled that IEPA, in fact, does grant the president the authority to unilaterally impose tariffs.
So, Carolyn said it would happen yesterday. And it happened today. She was a little late. What are you going to do? She was like 16 hours. I'm sorry. She was a little early. She was 16 hours early. Big wins coming all over the board for the Trump administration. Trump launched the tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, which allows for the executive branch to implement such trade policies during emergencies. However, on Wednesday, a 3-judge panel at the U.S. Court of Tariffs. Why do we have one of these? Really? The U.S. Court of International Trade? Boy, talk about a put your feet up kind of job. After the Trump administration appealed the court order for a stay to the block on the tariffs, a federal appeals court stated in its ruling the request for an immediate administrative stay is granted to the extent that the judgments and the permanent injunctions entered by the Court of International Trade in these cases are temporarily stayed until further notice. Oh, yeah. President Trump picking up win after win after win. You guys want to know another way to win? Well, you guys can head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on over here. Yeah, you know what? Yesterday we showed you guys the doggy stuff because, you know, everybody loves getting good stuff for their dogs. Everybody loves that. Today we're going to show you the kids department. Do you want your kids to be the coolest kids at school? Well, then you should probably head on over to loudmajorityusa.com and pick them up some phenomenal Loud Majority gear. We got onesies, we got hoodies, we got all the good stuff you guys are absolutely going to love. Check that out. I mean, come on, look at this. Come on. Go ahead and tell me this kid's not adorable. Toddlers for Trump. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot, guys. Head on over to loudmajorityusa.com and use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. Also for the ladies, boom, OMG, Orange Man, good shirt. Just for the ladies in the V-neck. Pick that up today. loudmajorityusa.com. Let's get to the live chat real quick because we are awaiting the Trump-Elon press conference. They say it's coming up at 1:30. We will see about that. We're awaiting that at the moment, guys. How's everybody doing today? Ba-boom. Caps, how are you? Gina Marie, how are you? Steph, what's happening? AV, R-Star, all the good people in here. We got Chris Caldwell on the channel. We got HC Knight over on Facebook. Giddy up. Jeanette, what's happening? Good stuff all around, guys. Once again, we are awaiting the Elon Musk, the Elon Musk departure press conference. Very sad stuff, but it is, there we go, Mr. Shy from New Jersey. Mr. Shy. There is no one shy from New Jersey. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. What's up, Ellen? How are you? I'm doing very well today. I got to be honest, I'm kind of sad that Elon Musk is leaving. I am. He did a lot of good for this country, and we'll see if Congress is willing to implement that good. Bobby Driver wants to know, how about them Knicks? Knicks in 7, baby. Let's go. Giddy up. Knicks in 7, and then Kathy Hochul is going to have to call in the National Guard because me, along with the rest of the savages outside of Madison Square Garden, will lose our minds. We'll absolutely lose our minds. Claire, how are you? So, as we await the press conference with Elon and Donald Trump, it's time for us to take note not only of the Doge savings, not only of what they were able to accomplish. Obviously, we know what those are, but there's more important things that Elon Musk has done to this party. One, it lets the billionaires know that you have a friend here. We are not the radical socialists that want to come and tax all of your money. That's number one. But number two, it has enshrined the fact that we are the normal people. We are the people who use common sense. And Jesse Waters does a great breakdown of this on Fox News last night. Here was Jesse Waters making fun of Jessica Tarlov, which is kind of his entire job at this point.
It was just not the right way. The process was wrong. But they were 100% behind it, guys. What say you, Jesse?
You know, Jessica's laughing that he's gone, but it's like laughing at a funeral. The Democrats' funeral. Your party's dead, Jessica.
What?
And you basically pushed the world's wealthiest man into our arms. You took...
And now he's running from you. He went on one date.
Wait,
and
no,
done.
this is the day that he was supposed to leave.
Yeah, he's supposed to leave tomorrow, 180 days. How do I know that and you don't,
It's
Jessica?
130.
Listen, you now made Elon Musk the Republican Party's biggest donor. Thank you. Thank you very much. You think he's just going to stop giving?
He said I'm stopping
Okay,
giving.
I've heard that before. They're going to give. You think he's not giving to Vance? After what you did to him, do you think he's just going to bury the hatchet? After you called him a Nazi? After you bombed his cars, you think the next election he's going to be like, all right, you know what? Let the Democrats get back in there. Because what do you think the Democrats are going to do when they get back in? They're going to go all in and try to put the man in prison. They're going to try to bankrupt his companies and investigate the hell out of him. You think he's not going to give anymore? You are an... I'm not going to say the word idiot, but you've made a huge mistake and you don't realize how dumb it is. Also, you're saying how much you need men. Young men idolize Elon Musk. They want to be him. They want to be based. They want to ride around in his trucks, and they want to hang with big balls. And now every time you attack Elon Musk, you're attacking all of the young men that you need for your party to survive. You're attacking a living legend. We're talking Rockefeller, Ford, Jobs. Who's against him? Booker? He's a footnote. Liz Warren, what has she ever done? This man's expanding civilization. He's cut spending. He's actually found fraud.
Where?
You've never found it, Jessica.
And while he was doing that, he rescued astronauts that they then mocked while they praised Katy Perry.
Yeah, he's...
No one praised Katy Perry, to be clear.
He's like... She didn't look great, that shot. He's juggling like heroic acts, and you guys are chirping at him for the silence. You had your chance. You didn't cut spending. You didn't find fraud. You made Kamala Harris the AI czar, Jessica. This is like you're upset because he set a $2 trillion goal and didn't hit it. Okay.
He ended up with $9 billion.
He did more than you did. He did more than anyone has ever
That's
done
not true.
in about 3 decades, Jessica.
And, of course, all Jessica can do is just whine and yell that that's not true. But what does Jesse mean? They're going to prosecute him. What are they going to prosecute him for what? What are they going to do? Well, it turns out the Democrats are already out there. They're already out there saying that when they retake power, they will be prosecuting Elon Musk. Now, the question is, for what? For what? I have no idea. But, Rep... All right, look, I'm not being rude. I'm really not being rude. There's just absolutely no way I can say this man's name. I'm not being a dick. I just can't say his name. I don't want to, I'm not being an idiot. But this representative from Virginia, wow, that's a long-ass name, tells MSNBC that if Democrats retake the House, their top priority will be to subpoena Elon Musk.
Elon Musk's exit. He is Elon Musk's exit. He is leaving Washington. But I think that Elon Musk is just finished. I have not heard a lot of Democratic elected officials talk about the data. Elon Musk and his Doge peeps, if you will, they installed servers within the White House complex. They were integral within the Office of Presidential Personnel, which has tentacles out into every single agency. They have inroads into every single agency now. Doge was in there.
And he didn't take those servers with him.
The servers, I don't think, have left the White House. And so what are Democrats going to do about the data? Are you all going to follow up on this? What's your take on Elon Musk's being done? Because I just think he's finished. He's just finished what he was doing. Actually, he's finished. He's not done because they've still got the data.
Yeah, I heard he's on some image repair tour. I think the best way for him to repair his image is to reverse all the damage he did to our government, to the American people. And yeah, those servers are a big issue. We want to continue to investigate that. And certainly, I think some crimes may have been committed over the past 3 or 4 months, and they are going to come to light one way or another. We're going to come to light, even if it takes us getting into power again. But we will subpoena people and find out.
Ah, you see? He says it out loud right at the end. The representative that nobody has ever heard of and will never be heard from again. Once the Democrats get back into power, they plan on finding the crime. You see, he thinks a crime was committed. He thinks something has happened. He doesn't know if anything has happened. But show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Everyone around Vladimir Lenin would be proud, would be absolutely proud. Guys, we are awaiting the Trump-Elon Musk press conference. It's going to be coming any minute now, it looks like. Looks like from what I've got on the screen. I'm not saying, somebody on the Rumble chat, Island Girl says, say his name. I'm not saying it. I'm going to screw it up. I don't want to be that disrespectful. I'll try. Guys, before we keep rocking and rolling, Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system. One based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, support the people who are supporting this parallel economy and consider opening an account with Old Glory Bank. I'm a big believer in CDs. Lock in these interest rates while they're here. Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com. Put a little bit of money into a CD. Lock it down into a good savings account. You're not getting anything in your regular savings account. Let's be honest, and I trust my money with Old Glory Bank. You should too. Guys, go to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. So, more big numbers. Big number. As the Fed key inflation rate drops to a 4-year low. This is big stuff. A key inflation measurement for the Federal Reserve hit a 4-year low in April. The Core Personnel Consumption Expenditure Index, which takes food as well as energy costs out of the equation with pricing, rose at 2.5% year over year, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, excluding food and energy. The increase in 2.5% from 1 year ago. Additionally, disposable income. This is the big one. Disposable income. Personal income less than personal current taxes increased over the course of the nation, $189 billion, which is slightly less than 1%, and personal consumption expenditures increased only 0.2%. Here was CNBC having to admit it out loud.
Personal income is up 0.8%. That is almost triple the expectations, and it underscores we could talk about a lot of issues, but when you look at income for the first 4 months of the year, they're powerful numbers, Joe. Up 0.6 in January, up 0.7 in February, up 0.5% last month, up 0.8 this month. This is a great 4-month start to any year. Now, with the income shooting up, and by the way, 0.8 is the strongest income month-over-month jump since May of 21, when it was 1.9.
Now, I want to be clear. If you don't understand what that man said, I don't blame you. These people are in these finance people, they're all insane. But he seemed pretty excited about it, whatever the hell he was talking about. And of course, he gives credit to who? Does he give credit to Americans being able to buy cheaper plastic crap from overseas made by slaves? No. Here's who he gives credit to.
The income numbers, really, for the first 4 months of the year, they're stellar. They're really stellar. I mean, I could go back and look at the first 4 months of many different years. Really very strong numbers, and you're right. This administration is criticized for just about everything under the sun. I've never, ever in my lifetime had glimpses into the politics of an administration in the form of transparency like this one. Why don't we be, give credit where credit is due? Income really shooting up.
Rick,
Give credit where credit is due. Of course, the mainstream media is physically incapable of doing that. They've got to find something. They've got to hoot and holler and rant and rave and be pessimistic and be annoying. And that is probably why. We've got some funny stuff coming up next. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. Look, if you guys are looking to support this network, the best thing you can do is to follow the page, create a Rumble account, hit that follow button. Another thing you guys can do is leave us a comment down below in the comment section. Believe me, that we love the live chat. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'll put the live chat up on the screen just so we can do it all in one shot. There we go. Boom. You can leave a comment in the live chat, but the best way is to comment down below. It really helps the Rumble algorithm, and it helps more people see the content. Kevin, well, hold on a minute. Hold. What the hell? Someone just said I have a Boston accent? Are you kidding me? Oh, no. That just broke me a little bit. Boston. No. Let's try that again, everybody. Head on over to lfatv.us. It's lfatv.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFATV related. That's funny. I'm just kidding you, Mass Drid 106. I'm just breaking chops. Don't worry. Just breaking chops. And somebody also said, Kevin, you need doggy bandanas in different sizes. I was going to get one. I think they come in different sizes, don't they? I'm pretty sure they come in different sizes. Let's see here. Yeah, I think they do. Yeah, you can get bigger sizes. You can get bigger sizes on all the stuff. Check that out. But guys, head on over to lfatv.us as we await President Trump and Elon Musk. So, MSNBC's, look, guys, aside from the fact that everyone on that network has a mental illness, turns out they're also on life support. Viewers are fleeing MSNBC just weeks after the liberal network debuted its new primetime lineup. This from the Daily Mail. So far this month, wow, hold on to your butts. MSNBC in prime time has dropped 41% over the course of a month and 34% during the day compared to May of 2024. Leaked ratings figure shows. In a stinging blow to Jen Psaki, ain't no circle back girl, who on May 5th took over for Rachel Maddow during the 9 p.m. time slot. Maddow, who has been the top host on the network for years, previously said she had faith in Joe Biden's former press secretary, who would do even better than her in the role. The latest ratings, and remember, these are internals. These are not Nielsen ratings. This is MSNBC's own tracking. The latest ratings for The Briefing with Jen Psaki came on May 22nd, when it failed to crack the coveted 1 million viewer mark. Sean Hannity, in comparison, had 2.3 million, almost 3 times as many viewers. Psaki's show also performed dismally in the key demo, only pulling 55,000 viewers in that category. By comparison, Hannity had nearly 4 times more in the key demo. This is... I want to be clear. We are a podcast network. We are a how would you say it? A high quality, low budget podcast network. And we will have more than 55,000 viewers in the demo. That's just a mathematical fact. On May 5th, MSNBC premiered its weeknight panel with Simone Sanders Townsend, I don't know when she added the last part to her name, Michael Steele, and Alicia Mendez. For anyone who doesn't know who Alicia Mendez is, well, she's the daughter of Bob Menendez, the senator who's about to die in prison for accepting gold bars from the Egyptians. They're not even hiding it. The show is the official replacement for Joy Reid's former program, which was canceled in February following her inflammatory social media posts and bad ratings. The Weeknight, which airs at 7 p.m., had 700,000 viewers and 56,000 of them in the key demo. I want to be clear. There's like a mark in television. Ask anybody who works in TV. If you get, on cable I should say, if you get under 50,000 in the demo, your show is immediately canceled. If you're on any other network, if you were the 7 p.m. host on ESPN or, I don't know, HGTV Live, and you got under 50,000 in the demo, you'd be immediately canceled. Immediately canceled. Psaki, who presided over the long-term loss in eyeballs, her show averaged less than 1 million viewers since it premiered, a 46% drop from the average 1.82 million who were watching her time slot when Rachel Maddow was hosting it. So, for the first 100 days of the Trump administration, Rachel Maddow was hosting the 9 p.m. hour on MSNBC. She then didn't feel like working so much anymore, and now only hosts the show 1 day a week. When Rachel Maddow hosts the show, she has 1.8 million viewers. When she turns it off, when she's not on, half of the people change the channel. 900,000 people in perfect unison grab the remote and go, yeah, we're good. CNN is also lagging behind Fox News. But all of its shows, with the exception of Abby Phillip, have been beating MSNBC in the key demo. News Nation, the upstart cable network that has been around for 4 years, also reported a growth in viewership, according to the Nielsen ratings. I want to be clear. News Nation is an amalgamation, is a conglomerate of all people who have been fired from other networks. I'm talking about Leland Vitter and Chris Cuomo. Who the hell else is on News Nation? Who else is on News Nation? News Nation Primetime. Oh, yeah, let's see. Anybody you guys will have heard of before? Sloan Glass? No. Ashley Banfield, that's who I was trying to think of. Dan Abrams, he's worked for every network on planet Earth. Let's see, who else is here? And nobody else any of you have ever heard of. Laura Ingle. Isn't Laura Ingle from Little House on the Prairie? Not the point. But they're in trouble. And they did it to themselves. They did it to themselves by their obnoxious race hustling. They did it to themselves by ignoring Joe Biden. They did it to themselves by ignoring their key constituency. And all I can say is watching the death of the media is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Because it turns out they kept the gates closed for so long. That people just started their own thing. And look, there are left-wing podcasts that are out there that are killing it. I know none of you watch them. I watch them so you don't have to. I'm talking about like Midas Touch, which is the resistance left and hosted by some of the most bat crap crazy people you've ever seen in your entire life. I'm talking about shows like Breaking Points with Saga and Jetty and Crystal Ball. They're killing it. The Young Turks still killing it. Stephen A. still killing it. All left-wing shows. So there is an appetite for left-wing news, just not the neoliberal propaganda that they are putting out and it's hilarious to watch. Guys, once again, we are awaiting the Elon Trump press conference. It looks like they're running a little bit late. I'm sure President Trump is on the phone with Japan or China or somebody doing some big things. We'll bring you that as soon as it comes in. Before we get to that, here's Jeremy.
Oh, hey, folks. How you doing? Jeremy Harrell here, LFA TV. I was just reading up here on Fatty 15. Sounds kind of funny, right? It's not, though. Fatty 15 is a new supplement that we are taking here at LFA TV that I'm personally taking myself that has a nutrient in it called C15. And what is C15? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can thank our aquatic friends, the dolphins, for science figuring this out. The first breakthrough in 90 years about what the proper amount of C15 in your body can do. Every one of us wants peace. Every one of us wants to experience joy and a long life with our kids and our grandkids sitting in a setting like you see behind me. Well, there's one way that you can do that outside of eating right, having a good diet, exercising, saying your prayers, eating your vitamins, but also taking supplements that our bodies just don't produce anymore because we're all breaking down, especially as we get older. Fatty 15 has a nutrient called C15. And what this does is it, first of all, repairs your old damaged cells and then kind of slows down the aging process of your cells, giving you longevity of life. And 72% of people taking Fatty 15 see massive benefits within 16 weeks. Some earlier, some later. But those benefits are absolutely amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Most people said their liver and heart health feels much better. A lot of people said that their skin is changing. They feel like they're healthier. Their metabolic system changes. And ladies and gentlemen, it's also vegan friendly. Now, Fatty 15 has 3 times the cellular benefits as any omega-3 or fish oil. Omega-3 and fish oil also can go bad after a while. By replenishing our cells with this C15 nutrient that I'm talking about in here, Fatty 15 effectively repairs cells and restores our long-term health. Now, I can get you a 15% off a 90-day subscription right now by going to fatty15.com/LFA, promo code LFA. That's fatty15.com/LFA, promo code LFA. And ladies and gentlemen, despite the name, it's not going to make you a fatty. It's actually going to give you something that you've been wanting for a long time, to feel younger again. Who doesn't want that? Fatty15.com/LFA, code LFA. Check it out now. Thank you guys so very much. Have a wonderful day.
Guys, we continue to await the Trump-Elon Musk press conference about Elon's departure from Doge and departure from the American government. And as we await that, I want to make sure I get this in, because yesterday, New York lost a true icon. We lost a true icon, and I want to make sure I give him his due. Former NYPD commissioner and 9/11 hero Bernie Kerik died at the age of 69. For my New Yorkers out here, you guys know about Bernie Kerik. He was a staple in New York City post 9/11 and prior. Bernie Kerik, the former New York City police commissioner who rose to national prominence in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, died Thursday night at the age of 69. Kash Patel announced his death on X in writing, "Today we mourn the loss of Bernard B. Kerik, a warrior, a patriot, and one of the most courageous public servants this country has ever known." Bernie passed away tragically after a private battle with illness. With over 40 years of service in law enforcement, national security, he dedicated his life to protecting the American people. As the 40th police commissioner of New York City, Bernie led with strength and resolve in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, guiding the NYPD through one of the darkest chapters in the nation's history. He's decorated more than 100 times for his bravery, his valor, and his service. He concluded, "Rest easy, Commissioner. Your watch has ended, but your impact will never fade. In the year 2000, Carrick was appointed as police commissioner to the New York City Police Department by then Mayor Rudy Giuliani. In 2001, he got national recognition for his coordination of emergency efforts during the response to the 9/11 attacks. His awards include the Presidential Commendation of Heroism from Ronald Reagan, 2 Distinguished Service Awards from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Let's see. Bernie Carrick, he got himself into a little bit of trouble later on in life with some tax stuff, but he was an absolute legend here in New York, and all the New Yorkers watching this know what he did to not only to help clean up the city as a police commissioner should, as a public servant should, but in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, Bernie Carrick was he was a staple out there, and you know, I got the opportunity to meet him several times at various events throughout New York City. So I just want to make sure before we go to the press conference, which they're still running a little late on, we acknowledge Bernie Carrick's service to the city of New York and all that he did. So Commissioner Carrick, rest easy, my friend. Thank you for everything you did. Let's keep moving on because there is more news. Once again, we're awaiting the Elon Musk press conference with President Trump, which will roll into the 2 o'clock hour. So if you're watching here on LFA TV, it'll roll right into Will Johnson's show, I believe. So let's keep on moving. Let's talk about the 50th state. Okay, let's talk about Hawaii. Because Hawaii has lost its marbles. Hawaii has, their coconuts have fallen off the tree, as some might say. Democratic Governor Josh Green signed the green fee into law. What the hell is the green fee? Which places an additional tax on tourists to fund climate change migration measures. The first such tax in the nation's history, the tourist tax applies to visitors staying at Hawaii's hotels and short-term rentals, as well as cruise ships that port in the state. Under Act 96, the state's current transient accommodation tax will increase by almost 8%, amounting to a total tax of 11% for nightly lodging. So, if you are planning on going to Hawaii anytime soon, you will now have to pay an 11% tax to stay at a place that is already unbelievably too expensive in the first place. I'm not sure why Hawaii costs so much money, but it does. The green fee is intended to address the critical need to build resiliency against the impacts of climate change by providing a stable source of funding for environmental stewardship, hazard migration, and sustainability tourism. So, you go to Hawaii for a week and you pay into their fund that apparently has been a problem for the last couple of 100 years. Democrats can keep doing this with climate change all they want. People are only going to hate them more and more and more and more. Hawaii cannot wait for the next disaster to hit before taking action. We must build resiliency now. And the green fee will provide the necessary financing to ensure resources are available for the future. Now, look, I want to be clear. Do I want anything bad to happen to the people of Hawaii? Any sort of climate-related issue? Of course not. Of course not. But, you know, at the end of the day, you chose to live on an island in the middle of the ocean. So you probably shouldn't be shocked when, you know, ocean-type things happen to you. I don't know, is that too unkind? Is that too unfeeling? Is that, I don't know. If you live in the mountains, you should expect there might be an avalanche. If you live in Florida, you should expect there might be a, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. That's just me. Guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button because we're going to get to a sad story. Once again, we're still awaiting this press conference here. You know, the tension is palpable. The anticipation, They're killing us here. They're killing us here. Before we get to that, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to mypillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's mypillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's mypillow.com, promo code LOUD. So over the last several days, we've been talking about young men moving over to the right and why they're moving on over to the right. And there are a lot of different reasons why this is happening. There are many. The left is ridiculous. They are complete asinine. They are completely asinine when it comes to their policies and how they treat people. But a new study out from Gallup shows some really bad signs for young men growing up. American men aged 15 to 34, which is not me, thankfully, aged 15 to 34, experience loneliness 10% higher than all of their counterparts. What does that mean? That means that men at the ripe age of starting a family and beginning a life have never been lonelier. And every single study that comes out about this shows the exact same thing. Young men in the United States are experiencing significantly higher levels of loneliness than other Americans and young men in wealthy countries. According to a recent Gallup survey, aggregated data from 2023 to 2024 found that in 25%, a quarter of U.S. males between the age of 15 and 34 reportedly felt feeling lonely a lot the previous day. That number is notably higher than the average of 18% and 18% reported than the national average of 18% and 18% among young women. Compared to other developed nations, American young men also stand out. Among the 38 most high-income democratic nations that make up the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, which is all the countries that you would think of, many of the European countries, Canada, and the like. The median loneliness rate for young men is only 15%, closely aligning with the overall median of 16%. No other country in the data set showed a gap between young men and the rest of the population as large as the one in the United States. This is terrifying. This is a problem that needs addressing. And unfortunately, nobody seems to talk about it. Whenever they do talk about it, it's always in some sort of condescending way. But these studies have been going on for quite some time. These findings have been going on for a while now, showing that young men, they don't work. They don't go out. They don't get driver's licenses. They don't go to bars with their friends. They don't have sex. They don't have relationships. They're not having children. They're just wallowing. And why would we expect anything other than that? I tell you, the other day we were out at one of our local parks. Uh-oh. They are getting ready right now. We got Trump and Elon in the Oval Office. Let's see here. Fox now has it. I'm waiting for the White House feed to come up. Here's President Trump.
And we find our government's a little nasty on occasion. Hello, Peter.
Yeah, at times. Hello, President Trump.
Government's a little bit nasty, Peter. You haven't noticed that. You have you've had a charmed life, right?
You tell me.
Very charmed. I think you've had a charmed life. I think what I'll do, if you don't mind, numbers have just come out which are rather extraordinary, and I thought I'd play a tape of one of the people who I've respected over the years, from Joe Kiernan and Rick Santelli. This just came out, and we'll just play that for a second.
Personal income is up 0.8%. That is almost triple the expectations. I'll tell you that the income numbers, really, for the first 4 months of the year, they're stellar. They're really stellar. I mean, I could go back and look at the first 4 months of many different years. Really very strong numbers, and you're right. This administration is criticized for just about everything under the sun. I've never, ever in my lifetime had glimpses into the politics of an administration in the form of transparency like this one. Why don't we be, give credit where credit is due? Income really shooting up.
Rick, I also thought everybody was going to get one last order of imports that were going to be tariffed, and they were loading up on things. How the hell they already fix the trade, or not fix it, but to cut it in half? That's crazy. So there wasn't a lot of front loading of things that they needed before the tariffs hit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it really does call into question some of the conventional wisdoms. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next month when we get this number, or we see some of the other numbers like current accounts, see how they fared. Because I don't know, I've been watching these numbers a long time. I don't think I've ever seen the trade deficit cut in half in 1 month.
Not bad. Right? Not bad.
Come on, guys.
I see Howard and Scott are here, so it's great. You guys want to stand over here? You might as well. You're the ones that help produce those numbers, and it'll only get better. The tariffs are so important, and that's why we were so happy with the decision yesterday where the tariffs continue, because without the tariffs, our nation would be imperiled. We would really be imperiled. I think I can say that with great surety, Scott and Howard. And so we were very happy to get that decision, that big decision yesterday. And today it's about a man named Elon, and he's one of the greatest business leaders and innovators the world has ever produced. He stepped forward to put his very great talents into the service of our nation, and we appreciate it. And I just want to say that Elon has worked tirelessly helping lead the most sweeping and consequential government reform program in generations. And the kinds of things that he's found and his people have found. He's brought a group of very smart people in, and they found things that are pretty unbelievable. I have to say that the numbers that we're talking about are substantial, but they're going to be very much more substantial with time, because many of the things that we're working on right now, we're going to have to remember Elon as we find them, but the numbers could double and triple because many things, we don't want to go out with them until we're sure, but we've found things that are unbelievably stupid and unbelievably bad. With the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon's delivered a colossal change in the old ways of doing business in Washington. Doge has installed geniuses with an engineering mindset and unbelievably talented people in computers. I actually asked Elon one time, what's their primary thing? And they have a lot of primary things, all having to do with being smart. But he said the thing that they're really the best at is working with computers, so that they can't be outsmarted by somebody that's not so honest, that happens to also be good with computers, but not as good as these people. But the mindset in the senior ranks of every federal department, and it's really changed. And with Elon's guidance, they're helping to detect fraud/waste and modernize broken and outdated systems. So as you know, we're talking about various systems and changing systems. And, sadly, it takes a long time to do that. You'll change, let's say, a system at IRS and computerize it properly, where the job can be done in 1/10 the time, but it takes sometimes years to rebuild those systems. But we've started, in many cases we've started. I will say that this has less to do with Elon, but the air traffic control systems, we're bidding out to the best companies in the world, those systems right now. They were what the previous administration was horrible what they did. They spent billions and billions of dollars And in the end, it didn't even come close to working. They tried to hook up wire to copper, and it can't be done. And they just spent billions of dollars and just wasted money. Actually made the system much worse. So we're going to get a brand new modern system. Congress is working with us on that, and we're going to get it done as quickly as we can. But it's in the works, and once it's done, it'll be good for 30 years. But we have a system that's 48 years old and would have a modern computer hooked into a very outdated computer, and they don't hook up. I mean, they didn't hook up. So after spending billions of dollars, they turned on the system, and it in never any cases from local to countrywide, they never worked. More than 75,000 bureaucrats have voluntarily left their taxpayer-funded jobs to come out and really do the job. Countless wasteful and unnecessary contracts have been terminated, and you know that we have terminated many, many contracts, and many contracts, Elon, are right now being looked at, and it may be 6 months, it may be almost a year in some cases. We're going through procedures, we're going through courts, and we'll remember you as we announce billions of dollars of extra waste, fraud, and abuse. Just as an example, Doge canceled $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education, $101 million, and that was just a small section of the Department of Education. $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City, and the landlord never made the kind of money that he made in the last short period of time. $59 million to a hotel in New York City, $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. In Burma, does anyone know about Burma? $42 million for social and behavioral change in Uganda. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. I can say it's $2 billion to Stacey Abrams and her environmental movement. There was $100 in the account, and all of a sudden they found $2 billion in the account. And I assume that's being looked at. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I assume that's being looked at. Think of that, $2 billion. And then Lee will tell you there's another one over there for $20 billion being spent on another environmental. $20 billion. Not 20 million, a lot. Not 200,000, which is a lot. So think of it, in her case, you have $100, and now all of a sudden she gets hit with an infusion of $2 billion just before I take office. $20 million for Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. Nobody knows what that's all about. Nobody's been able to find it. $8 million for making mice transgender. So they spent $8 million on making mice transgender. And those are better than many of the others. I could sit here all day and read things just like that, but we have other things to do. So it's much, much more than just that. We're totally committed to making the Doge cuts permanent and stopping much more of the waste in the months to come. We want to get our great, big, beautiful bill finished and done. After that, we put some of this into the bill, but most of it's going to come later. We're going to have it cauterized by Congress, affirmed by Congress. In some cases, we'll make cuts. In some cases, we'll just use it in a different layer to save the money. But it's hundreds of billions of dollars. Doge has also fully modernized the federal retirement process and continues to work very hard on the IRS modernization. But we're taking that over with Doge. Many of the Doge people, Elon, are staying behind, too, so they're not leaving. And Elon's really not leaving. He's going to be back and forth, I think. I have a feeling. It's his baby, and I think he's going to be doing a lot of things. But Elon's service to America has been without comparison in modern history. He's already running one of the most innovative car companies in the world. You look at his factories and compare them with some of the old factories we have, and it's a big difference. And the most successful space company, and I guess in history you would have to say the largest free speech platform on the internet, etc. Yet Elon willingly, with all of the success, he willingly accepted the outrageous abuse and slander and lies and attacks because he does love our country. I know that very much. He loves our country. He comes from another country, a country that's going through trials and tribulations, I would say. But he's all about the USA, and Americans owe him a great debt of gratitude. So I just want to thank Elon for his time as a special government employee. Can you imagine? They called him an employee, but it's a special government employee, and for coming and helping us. And he really has changed the mindset of a lot of people. A lot of people thought, maybe we'll cut 1% or 2% or 3%. Then they said, wow, we can cut a lot more than that. And we're going to do it very surgically. We're going to continue on the march. We're making America great again. When I was in Saudi Arabia, and we were in, as you know, 3 really great countries, predominantly the 3. Qatar was great. UAE was great. Saudi Arabia, incredible. Such an incredible experience to be in those 3 countries. But the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and I must tell you, the great leaders of the other 2 that we just mentioned, they all said the same thing, that the United States is the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. And 6 months ago, we thought it was dead. It was like a dead country. And it would have been a dead country if we didn't have the right result on November 5th. It would have been a horrible, horrible situation was going on with the borders, with transgender for everyone, men playing in women's sports, and so much more. But they were saying the hottest country anywhere in the world. And then I played that little clip because I was one person who was respected, but there were 2 people, because Joe was in that one too. Joe's a good man. But that was one group of people saying something about the success of what we've done over the last 4 months. They cannot believe it. In the one case, they said they've never seen anything like it as long as they've been doing what they've been doing. They've been doing it for a long time. So I want to thank Elon for helping. And again, the United States right now is the hottest country anywhere in the world. There's no country as hot, and we're doing really well. When I left, we had no wars, we had no problems. We defeated ISIS, we rebuilt our military, and we had no inflation. And when I came back, we had a lot of inflation. We had wars all over the place. We had the embarrassment in Afghanistan where we gave up billions and billions of dollars of military equipment, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, I believe. I believe that strongly. We have Russia with Ukraine. We had the attack in Israel in October, the horrible attack, October 7th. Horrible, horrible attack. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And now we have something where we're really healing a lot of that. We stopped India and Pakistan from fighting. I believe that could have turned out into a nuclear disaster. And I want to thank the leaders of India, the leaders of Pakistan, and I want to thank my people also. We talked trade, and we said we can't trade with people that are shooting at each other and potentially using nuclear weapons. And they're great leaders in those countries, and they understood, and they agreed. And that all stopped, and we're stopping others from fighting also, because ultimately we can fight better than anybody. We have the greatest military in the world. We have the greatest leaders in the world. We put one of them in charge of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as you know, General Raisin Kane. And we wiped out ISIS, completely wiped out ISIS in 3 weeks. They said it would take 5 years, and we did it in 3 weeks. And that's the way it is, but we don't want to have to use our military. We want to be peace through strength when we can, and that's the way we're going to have it. So I just want to thank Elon and all of his people. Most of those people are staying, almost all of them are staying, and they're going to be with us. And you're going to see the results coming long into the future. Even a year and 2 years later, you're going to see a lot of the results, and those hundreds of billions of dollars are going to be adding up, and they're going to continue to add. It'll be interesting, really interesting to see what the final number is going to be. But again, Elon gave an incredible service. Nobody like him. And he had to go through the slings and the arrows, which is a shame because he's an incredible patriot. The good news is that 90% of the country knows that, and they appreciate it, and they really appreciate what he did. And I gave him a little special something we have here.
Thank you.
A very special, that I give to very special people. I have given it to some, but it goes to very special people, and I thought I'd give it to Elon as a presentation from our country.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you. received a lot. The luck on this is amazing.
Large luck.
Well, let me say perhaps a few words that this is not the end of Doge, but really the beginning. My time as a special government employee necessarily had to end. It was a limited time thing. It's 134 days, I believe, which ends in a few days. So that it comes with a time limit. But the Doge team will only grow stronger over time. The Doge influence will only grow stronger. I liken it to sort of Buddhism. It's like a way of life. So it is permeating throughout the government, and I'm confident that over time we will see $1 trillion of savings and a reduction in $1 trillion of waste and fraud reduction. The calculations of the Doge team thus far, in terms of an FY25 to FY26 delta, are over 160 billion, and that's climbing. We expect that number will probably go over 200 billion soon. So I think the Doge team is doing an incredible job. They're going to continue doing an incredible job, and I'll continue to be visiting here and be a friend and advisor to the president. And I look forward to times being back in this amazing room. By the way, isn't this incredible? Look at this incredible. It's stunning. I think the way that the Oval Office, how the president has just completely redone the Oval Office. It's beautiful. I love the gold on the ceiling.
Thank you. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's been there a long time. That was plaster. Nobody ever really saw it. They didn't know the eagle was up there. And we highlighted. Essentially it's a landmark, a great landmark, and that's 24 karat gold, and everybody loved it. And now they all see it when they come in. So it's been good.
The Oval Office finally has the majesty that it deserves, thanks to the president. So I look forward to continuing to be a friend and advisor to the president, continuing to support the Doge team, and we are relentlessly pursuing $8 trillion in waste and fraud reductions, which will benefit the American taxpayer. That's it, really. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Right.
Great job.
Thank you, President Trump. The president mentioned that you had to deal with all the slings and arrows during your time at Doge. There's this New York
some of the people, some of the media organizations in this room were the slingers.
Well, there is a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line between.
It's the New York Times. Is that the same publication that got a Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russiagate? Is it the same organization?
I think it is.
I think it is. I think the judge just ruled against the New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that they might have to give back that Pulitzer Prize. That New York Times. Let's move on.
Okay.
Next question.
President Trump, Biden aides who used to work here are in talks with Republicans in Congress to go and testify about what they did or didn't do to possibly conceal President Biden's decline. Do you think that Dr. Jill Biden should also have to come in and testify about what she did or didn't do?
Well, I hate the concept of it. It's the wife of a man who was going through a lot of problems, and everybody that dealt with him understood that. And I guess it came out during the debate loud and clear. That was the biggest signal of all. They have to do what's right. The country there was a lot of dishonesty in the election, as you know, of 2020. That's been now caught. People understand it was a rigged election. And when you go further out, when you see the auto pen, I think the auto pen is going to become one of the great scandals of all time, because you have somebody operating it or a number of people operating. Because I knew Joe Biden. Joe Biden wasn't in favor of opening up borders, letting 21 million people into this from prisons and mental institutions and gang members. He wasn't into that at all. And who signed these orders, proclamations, and all of the different things that he signed that set our country so far back, that was so bad for our country?
With the auto pen, how would it work? Like, we're in the Oval Office right now. If there was a group of rogue staffers that worked for you who wanted to advance a bill or an executive order without your knowledge, how could they do it? How do they?
Well, it's very hard because I'd read your newspapers or your media the next day and I'd say, well, I didn't approve that, and I would find it. I mean, they wouldn't get away with it for long because I'd say, I never signed that. Who the hell signed that? Auto pens, to me, are used to sign letters to people because we get, I think they said 20,000 letters a week, and you like to be able, when somebody takes the time to write a letter, it's nice to sort of write back. And auto pens are meant for that. Auto pens are not meant to sign major proclamations or tax cuts or borders, anything having to do with the border, which is so important. And if it happened on my watch, I would be able to see it because the next day or sooner I'd be reading about something that I knew nothing about and who the hell signed this. So I almost never use the auto pen. In fact, yesterday I was signing about 81, I think it was 81 proclamations and statements to people that I think should be signed by us. I think when you write letters to foreign dignitaries or presidents or prime ministers, you should be signing those letters, not done with auto pens. I understand he signed almost everything with an auto pen. It's a very dangerous thing. It really means you're not president. Whoever operated the auto pen, and we think we know who that is, and it was actually more than one person, but that's not what the presidency is all about. I hardly used to hear
Mr.
President,
on China. Reinstate the tariffs on China. You said that they violated the agreement with the U.S.
Well, they did. They violated a big part of the agreement we made. You know, if you read that whole statement, I was very nice to them. I helped them because they were in trouble with the stoppage of a massive amount of business. But I'm sure that I'll speak to President Xi and hopefully we'll work that out. But yeah, it's a violation of the agreement. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, can you give us an update to the latest ceasefire agreement that Israel has agreed to, but Hamas still considering?
Well, they're very close to an agreement on Gaza, and we'll let you know about it during the day or maybe tomorrow, and we have a chance of that. And I think we have a chance of making a deal with Iran also. They don't want to be blown up. They would rather make a deal, and I think that could happen in the not-too-distant future. That would be a great thing if we could have a deal without bombs being dropped all over the Middle East. That would be a very good thing. They can't have a nuclear weapon. We want them to be safe. We want them to have a very, very successful nation. Let it be a great nation, but we can't have that. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. And I think we're fairly close to a deal with Iran.
Mr. Musk, a question for Elon.
Yeah, please.
You said just now that you look forward to being a friend and advisor to the president. So do you expect to continue advising the president and Doge informally, or are you going to sort of shift your focus entirely to your companies?
Well, I expect to continue to provide advice whenever the president would like advice.
I hope so.
I mean, I expect to remain a friend and an advisor, and certainly if there's anything the president wants me to do, I'm at the president's service.
Mr. Musk, on Doge, you said that there was $1 trillion promise for cuts from.
Yes, I think we do expect over time to achieve the $1 trillion.
But what have you found in your time here was the biggest roadblock to getting those cuts? Was it the cabinet, or was it Congress, or something else? What was the biggest roadblock from your work?
It's mostly just a lot of hard work. It's really not any one person or Congress. It's going through really millions of line items and saying just each one of them makes sense or does not make sense. Obviously, at times when you cut expenses, those who are receiving the money, whether they're receiving that money legitimately or not, they do complain. And you're not going to hear someone confessing that they received money inappropriately. Never. They're going to always say that they received money appropriately for an important cause. Naturally, that's what you'd expect. So we just have to. It's just a lot of work going through the vast expenses of the federal government and just really asking questions. What's this money for? Are you sure it's actually being used well? Many times we can't even find anyone who defends it. So for a lot of the expenses, there is actually no defender at all. And then we have to just work through the process of stopping the spending, where there's often literally no defender. Nobody even knows why the money's being spent. It's truly absurd. I mean, we find situations where there are millions of software licenses with 0 people using them. 0. Exactly. This is the quizzical expression. You're like, surely, if there's millions of software licenses, someone should be using them. No, and then we've got to go through the process of saying, okay, look, if no one's using the software, we need to terminate this software license agreement. That's everywhere in the government, by the way.
Mr. Musk, what do you think would be easier, colonizing Mars or making the government efficient?
It's a tough call, but I think colonizing Mars and making life multiplanetary is harder. And as I said, we do expect to achieve over time the $1 trillion of savings. We can't do it in like a few months, but if you say by I think the official end of DOGE, which the president may choose to extend, is the middle of next year. If you say by the middle of next year, with the support of the president and Congress, could we achieve $1 trillion of savings? I think so. We're on track to do so.
Do you have faith that Congress is going to
Go ahead.
Mr.
President, you had mentioned earlier in the week that DOGE had become a whipping boy, and as the president mentioned, you went through a lot to go through this process.
Yes.
Was it worth it for you, and what would you change?
Yes, so what we found was happening was that if there were any cuts anywhere, then people would assume that was done by DOGE. And so we became like essentially the DOGE boogeyman, where if any cut anywhere would be ascribed to DOGE. A friend of mine's daughter, who's at law school at Georgetown, thought that DOGE had cut the Senate, the internships the legal internships for the Senate, and we have nothing to do with that. So if they have been cut, it's not to do with us, just as an example. So, it just became a bit ridiculous where any cut anywhere was somehow DOGE, and including things that made no sense, and we would agree made no sense. There are many things that occur in the government because it's the banal evil of bureaucracy. It's sort of the frankly largely uncaring nature of bureaucracy. It's as the great Milton Friedman said, money is spent most poorly when it is someone else's money being spent on people you don't know, and that's how federal spending is. And then you can't really even blame the individuals because the way the government works is complaint minimization. So when you do when someone within the government tries to stop that money being spent, there's usually someone that complains. And then their manager will say, it's not worth the trouble. Just pay it anyway. That happens over and over again.
So was it worth it?
I think it was an important thing. I think it was a necessary thing, and I think it will have a good effect in the future.
Thank you, President Trump. This week there was a video on board a plane that showed the First Lady of France slapping her husband, Emmanuel Macron. Do you have any world leader to world leader marital advice?
Make sure the door remains closed. That was not good.
Yes.
No, I spoke to him, and he's fine. They're fine. They're two really good people. I know them very well, and I don't know what that was all about, but I know them very well, and they're fine.
I got a little shiner here.
What do you think about the Democratic Party plan to avoid being swept in every battleground state again by spending $20 million to study how to speak to American men?
Well, they spent $2.8 billion. We spent 1.5. We spent much less. We spent about half of what they spent, and at the end they were $28 million short. They had to be. They spent $2.8 billion. It's a lot, but they couldn't get $28 million at the end, and now they want to spend. I read that they want to spend money to learn how to talk. That's fake. You don't want to be fake. You shouldn't have to hire consultants to say what America needs, because then the consultants should be running the deal, not them. But I read that they want to spend a lot of money in each state. So we won all 7 swing states, 7 out of 7. We won a lot more than that. We won the popular vote. We won everything, and they want to spend money to find out what they did wrong. And I mean, I could tell you what they did wrong. I could tell you every one of their programs. When they say men playing in women's sports, I would say that's not a winner. When they say transgender for everybody, I think that's not a winner. When they say open borders so the entire world population of criminals can pour into our country, I don't think that's a winner. I mean, I just gave them that for free, but I don't know if they'll change their ways. I see them all the time. I see people that I know in Congress, Democrats, they're trying to justify some of the things I just said. You can't justify them. I always hear the 80-20 issues. I say they're not 80-20, they're 97-3. They might be 99-1. They're not 80-20. They wish they were 80-20. And they're wasting a lot of money if they're going to continue with that nonsense.
And this Mr. President, on the big six question, but back when you listened to The Apprentice, you mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up. From what I read, I don't know. He didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. It's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So, I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Mr. President, on the Big Beautiful Bill, would you like to see the Senate build in some support for your tariffs on the Big Beautiful Bill, or should that be a standalone bill?
I have great support on the tariffs. I mean, I was so honored that we got that ridiculous stay lifted, because that would have taken away presidential power. It would have taken away everything that was granted by the founders. It would have been a terrible thing. And it would have, most importantly, left us vulnerable. We have a lot of countries that use tariffs on us and use them viciously, viciously. And if we didn't have the power to use tariffs on them, and instantly, not when you go back to Congress and try and get hundreds of people to agree on something, that would take months to get just one simple proclamation. If we didn't have the power to counteract their powers, you wouldn't have a country left. We have to act fast. We have to be fast and nimble, as they say. And that was a really great moment, I think, yesterday when that stay was lifted. And hopefully now we'll go to court and just win that battle. Because if we don't have the power to do what they're doing to us, we are going to be a great nation no longer.
Elon Musk was once idolized by folks on the left in this country before joining your administration. Now he's considered a hero by conservatives. Why do you think this man, what he's done in American life, has been so politicized?
Well, his life has been amazing. I mean, I look at so many different things. I look at that rocket being, guided back into position. I've never seen that before. I thought it was a space movie. I thought it was a movie. You look at what he's done in terms of communication. It's been unbelievable. So many different, even tunnels going underground, not having to go through all the process of going, he's got a company that does that. He's got so many different companies. Starlink, as an example, he saved a lot of lives, probably hundreds of lives in North Carolina. I don't even know if you remember, but I called you. They needed Starlink in North Carolina, and I didn't know what the hell Starlink was. I said, what is it? Who owns it? He said, do you know Elon Musk? I said, yeah, I happen to know the gentleman. This was before his government stay. And they said, we really need it, because North Carolina became an island. It was, people had no communication. They had no access to anything, and they were dying. And I called up Elon, and you can't get it because it's so successful. It's very hard to get. And he had so much of it brought over there, and they told me it was unbelievable. It saved a lot of lives. So, he's just done a lot of things. I don't think he gets credit for what he's done. But he's a very good person, too. You know what? If he wasn't a good person, but he did the same things, I'd probably maybe speak differently. He happens to be a really good person who loves the country.
Mr. Musk, Big Beautiful Bill, you had indicated this week that there were some things you didn't like about what had passed in the House. What changes do you want to see the Senate make? And you had also indicated there were things you didn't like about the bill. What would you be suggesting he push senators to change in their version?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll go first. It's an unbelievable bill. It cuts your deficits. It cuts, it's a huge cutting. But there's things I'd like to see maybe cut a little bit more. I'd like to see a bigger cut in taxes. It's going to be the largest tax decrease or cut in the history of our country. I'd like to see it get down to an even lower number. I was shooting for a slightly lower number. I would have liked to have done that. But with all of that being said, when you look at the tax cut and the fact that the original tax cut, which made us so successful, we had the most successful 4 years in the history of our country, the economy, and this is going to be even better. And you see that by the reports that came out just yesterday or tonight. I guess they were released this morning at 8 o'clock. You see the kind of numbers where somebody that's a pro is like, whoa, I haven't seen numbers like this since I've been doing this. You know, these are human emotions of professionals that have never seen numbers like, and we've just started. The bill is a great bill. It's going to be jiggered around a little bit. It's going to be negotiated with the Senate, with the House. But the end result is it extends the Trump tax cuts. If it doesn't get approved, you'll have a 68% tax increase. You're going to go up 68%. That's a number that nobody's ever heard of before. You'll have a massive tax increase. If it does get approved, you'll have a large tax cut, the largest we've ever had. When you add the past tax cuts that we got you, the Trump tax, they call them the Trump tax cuts. It's an amazing bill. It does amazing things. With all of that, it's going to be adjusted a little bit over the next coming weeks, and I think it's going to be passed. The Republicans want to pass it. With all of the great things it does, including an extension of debt, it's the extension. We have to extend the debt. If we don't extend debt, we're in default. Now, the Democrats might like our country to be in default, but in 250 years, we've never been in default. That was handed to them by a very well-meaning man that gave it to them because he thought it was the right thing to do. It could have been their problem before the election, but this man thought it was the right thing to do, and he was well-meaning. I don't hold anything against him for that, but that was put on our plate when it should have been on the Democrats. September 28th, a famous date. It should have been taken care of by the Democrats, but this person, a man of power, gave it to us so that in June that comes due. Well, we have to take care of that because if we don't take care of it, we have a country in default, and we don't ever want to have a country in default. You know, I'll tell you, a certain senator, Elizabeth Warren, said that she would never, ever allow a default on our debt. She would never let it happen, and she would like to get rid of the debt ceiling, what's called the debt ceiling. I call it the debt extension because we really need an extension, that she'd like to see that gotten rid of. And there are many people that agree. Many Democrats agree with that. But we gave that through, and you know, I don't want to say an error. He did it well-meaning. They gave that to us. It was a Democrat problem just before the election. Would have had a huge impact on the election. And to our benefit, we won anyway, but to our benefit. But felt that really for the good of the country, we should extend that. But Elizabeth Warren and various other people would like to see that. Her whole career, she wanted to see it terminated, gotten rid of, not being voted on every 5 years or 10 years. And the reason was because it's so catastrophic for our country. And I always agreed with her. That was one thing I agreed with her on. Now, I haven't spoken to her, but I would say that if you asked her that question now, she'd say, no, it's their problem. But it's a very unfortunate situation. It's a very unfair situation. And she happened to be right on that. It should be gotten rid of, or it should simply be extended. But that's one of the things that gets taken care of in this bill. That automatically gets extended for a 4-year period, and it should be. But I agree with Elizabeth Warren on that. I think you should get rid of it. It's too catastrophic.
Mr. Musk,
yeah, please, go ahead.
do you want to see, Mr. Musk, to the bill?
And to international students, are they still welcome to study in the United States? And one question for Mr. Musk.
To students? Well, we want to have great students here. We just don't want students that are causing trouble. We want to have students. I want to have foreign students. I think Harvard, you know, it's close to 31%. That's a lot. Our country's given $5 billion plus to Harvard over a short period of time. Nobody knew that. We found that out. I wouldn't say that was a Doge thing, but we found that out over a period of time. That was sort of a Trump thing. we ended up in litigation for other reasons because they're very anti-Semitic. And in finding out and in going through the books, we found out that the country gave them $5 billion plus, much more than that actually. And we're having it out with them, and let's see what happens. I think we have a very good, well, it's a very sad case. It's a case we win. We can't lose that case because we have the right to make grants. We're not going to make any grants like that. But I don't think Harvard's been acting very nicely. I think Columbia wants to get to the bottom of the problem. They've acted very well. And there are other institutions, too, that are acting, but Harvard's trying to be a big shot. And all that happens is every 3 days we find another $100 million that was given. 2 days ago, we found $200 million more. The money's given to them like gravy. I'd like to see the money go to trade schools, where people learn how to fix motors and engines, where people learn how to build rocket ships, because, you know, somebody has to build those rocket ships.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see trade schools set up, because you could take $5 billion plus hundreds of billions more, which is what's spent, and you could have the greatest trade school system anywhere in the world. And that's what we need to build his rockets and robots and things that he's doing, and to build lots of other things. And, you know, I went to school with people. In some cases, they weren't good students, but they could fix the engine of a car better than anybody I've ever seen. They could take it apart blindfolded. They had an ability at that. And they did very well. They made a lot of money. You know, it's a very skilled job. It's great. But I'd like to see a lot of money going into trade schools. I've always felt that. And we probably found our pot of gold, and that's what's been wasted at places like Harvard. And the money's been wasted. Yeah, please.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask quickly, Mr. Musk, is your eye okay? What happened to your eye? I noticed there's a juice there.
Well, it wasn't. I wasn't anywhere near France, so. No.
I didn't notice
about
it.
the
First Lady of France
getting slapped. You know.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, no, I was just horsing around with Lil X, and I said, "Go ahead, punch me in the face," and he did. Turns out, even a 5-year-old punching you in the face actually does.
That was X that did it?
Yeah.
X could do it. If you knew X,
I was with his mom right now. But I didn't really feel much at the time, and then I guess it bruises up. But I just horsing around with the kids.
I didn't
basically.
notice it actually.
I know that you try to stay pretty neutral because not your war, but
And by the way, not my war. I just want to solve the problem for people. This was not a war that was going to happen if I were president.
right. And so not your war, but as you try to fix it, and as you survey this hellscape of the Ukrainian front lines,
it's horrible.
And you and your team deal with a very stubborn Vladimir Putin. Do you
And
Yeah.
Zelensky.
But do you look at this
Very
conflict
stubborn Zelensky too.
any differently now? Like, do you look at this and see Putin as the good guy or the bad guy?
So I've known him very well, and I went through a lot of things with him because Russia was, you know, the Russia hoax turned out to be a total hoax. New York Times, they got a Pulitzer Prize. They have to give back the Pulitzer Prize. That's my lawsuit, and they're doing very poorly in that lawsuit. But you know, they wrote stories about how it was true and it was false, and you know, a lot of Washington Post also. I have gotten to see things that I was very surprised at. Rockets being shot into cities like Kiev during a negotiation that I felt was maybe very close to ending. We were going to solve a problem, and then all of a sudden rockets got shot into a couple of cities, and people